Welcome to the Cool Tools Show. I'm Mark Frauenfelder, Editor-in-Chief of Cool Tools, a website of tool recommendations written by our readers. You can find us at cool-tools.org. I'm joined by my co-host, Kevin Kelly, founder of Cool Tools. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, it's great to be here.
In each episode of the Cool Tools Show, Kevin and I talk to a guest about some of his or her favorite uncommon and uncommonly good tools they think others should know about. Our guest this week is Alana Ahmet. Alana is a toy designer and educator from Denver, Colorado. She has a background in physics and art and a love of Rube Goldberg machines. The combination of the three serve as the inspiration for her company, Momentix Toys, which uses chain reactions to teach design skills through joyful experimentation and hands-on play. Hey, Alana, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, you guys.
We're really excited to hear what cool tools you have to share with us. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, of course. I'm excited to share them with you all.
Good. Tell us about the first one, which is a laser cutter.
Yeah, I'm sure you've had many versions of various laser cutters on your show before, but I couldn't pass up an opportunity to rave about the usefulness of a laser cutter. The one I have the most experience with is the Epilog Zing laser cutter. Use the 40 and the 60 watt. Like you mentioned, I'm from Colorado, and Epilog's out of Golden, so maybe there's some Colorado ties there. But it is again and again like the most useful prototyping tool I could ever wish for.
And why do you like the Epilog Zing over some other ones, particularly some ones that may be more consumer oriented?
Yeah, so my kind of experience with making has kind of been shaped around maker spaces and kind of my experiences with them in community maker spaces and college maker spaces, and Epilog's interface is really easy to work with in making it available to community members. And in all the maker spaces I've been in, again, maybe it's because I'm in Colorado, it's always been Epilog. I ran a makerspace in college, and whenever I had an issue, it was really easy to call them up and be like, I don't know why this isn't working. And they would give me instructions right away. But I would love to work with the more high powered ones, but I was consistently using laser cutters to prototype out of plywood usually. So 1/4-inch plywood was my favorite material, and to make kind of flat pack designs and then glue them together really quickly to make a 3-dimensional design, I could do so quickly on a laser cutter, way easier than working like a CNC or like trying to make it in a wood shop, at least for me.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
And so this, the Epilog Zing 30, whatever it is, that would cut a 1/4-inch plywood, no problem.
Yeah, that cuts 1/4-inch is about as depending on what wattage you're using, usually 1/4-inch is about as thick as you're going to get. But you can do engraving on acrylic, and I'd cut, my very first set of business cards I ever made when I was like 21 was out of paper on a laser cutter, which was mostly out of just, that was what it was available to me. And I remember I went to a pitch competition later that night, and I met somebody who was blind. And it was really interesting because my business card, which I'd happened to make from like cut paper on that laser cutter, I gave it one to her, not really thinking about it. And she, obviously there was no braille on it, but she could read my business card just from the nature of it being cut 3-dimensionally out of paper, which was really interesting.
And so the Zings, they're probably maybe $8,000 or?
Oh gosh,
like
yeah. I don't know off the top of my head because again, I was always in kind of like a maker setting. One of the tools I was thinking of sharing is just like my makerspace membership, but I thought that might be kind of a cheap shot because just having the ability to use tools in kind of a communal setting has been really important for me. And the Zing was just every makerspace I've been to in Colorado always had that one.
Right. And so could you describe about the size? How big is it?
Yeah. So the bed is 18 inches by 12 inches. So you're not going to put anything crazy big in there. And, I've since worked with like really big laser cutters, which obviously are, you can cut a lot bigger things, which becomes really useful, but it makes you think in kind of a constrained way. And the 12 by 18 foot for what I was prototyping, which was either art projects or making prototypes of toys, it got the job done really well. And when I was teaching at a college, it was just a very like approachable looking machine. It's nothing like crazy looking. So I found that people who maybe don't have a background in like machinery or any sort of fabrication tools, the laser cutter was a really approachable tool for them, because all you had to do was scan your design into Illustrator, change the stroke so it would cut, and put in your settings, and you were good to go. Which, even if you didn't know anything about laser cutting, most people could find they could do something like that.
And so the case is the size of, I don't know, 3 feet by 2 feet or something like that?
Yeah, that's about it. Maybe even a little smaller than that. It could fit in a pretty small space. We were like in college, we had this really tiny room, and it had plenty of room around it to work with still.
And we've had people recommend for the consumer level, like a Glowforge. Do you have any experience with a machine like that?
No, I haven't worked with a Glowforge. Is it kind of, I'm assuming probably pretty similar, use a program like through Illustrator or whatever sort of software you want, and kind of just cuts according to line weights or color?
Yeah, you import like any STL file that you want, or it has a camera built into it, so you can like actually draw on the stock.
Oh, wow.
And then it will just cut around it, which is kind of cool. I have a Glowforge and use it quite a bit, and I really like it.
What sort of like ventilation do you have hooked up to that? Like, do you feel like, yeah.
I have a big hose. It's like, whatever the dryer kind of duct hose. And when I have to like run it out the window when I do it. It's not a big deal, but it's, How about you? Do you have a HEPA filter, or are you a ventilation system? Or?
Yeah, there's a fan hooked up to it. So I know you've got the two I've worked with are kind of ventilated in different ways, which, luckily the beauty of having, being part of a makerspace is you get to worry about all the fun stuff and not worry about when it,
right.
And until that one year when I was taking care of it. And I did learn a lot about the different like lenses and lasers inside of it, because I had to actually like clean it and take care of it. But, kind of felt like, being on a farm or something. I was in charge of the animals, but it was just my laser cutter in the basement.
I love it. That's great. So the next one, this is interesting that you mentioned it, because it's something that our previous guest, Paul, used to help him do his Turing tumble creation, is the Fusion 360 CAD/CAM software. For Autodesk. Tell us about that, and if it's how much it costs and the learning curve compared to like Tinkercad, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So the cost was a driving factor in being that, I wanted to design things in college. Specifically, I had this toy concept, but that, I went to a liberal arts school, so it wasn't like we had a big engineering department to teach me how to model. So I had to go the free DIY YouTube instructions route. And Fusion is free for college students. So I used that for a long time. And then Fusion is also free if you have a startup for like 3 years. So I have yet to pay for Fusion, which is a big pro. And, I see why they do that, because now I'm so versed in all of the different aspects of it, where, if eventually Autodesk, if you're listening, if eventually I need to pay for it, like I will, because I've found most of what I do, versus whether it's using a CNC to like program that way, or making some sort of animation or design or drawing files, I've figured out a way to do it on Fusion.
Very cool.
And for the listeners, this is like a kind of like an AutoCAD program, or it's a CAD program, computer assisted design. And you are, I think they have a version that maybe works on the web, as well as a kind of an app or desktop version, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And you're it's kind of like Illustrator, you're drawing, but it's a CAD program where you have dimensions. It's like SketchUp, but much more suited to a product rather than, say, architecture.
Yeah, exactly. If you ever want to go play, if anybody listening ever wants to go play around on Tinkercad, I feel like the really, really basics of Fusion kind of mirror Tinkercad, of like, you have this shape, you pull and extrude it is the basics. But yeah, starting with a sketch and like pulling up from there to make a 3D model of some sort. And I really appreciate how you can add the different materials in there, so you can make it function like it's made of wood or made of steel or whatever. And it's just been really helpful for like trying to communicate something I'm designing that doesn't have anything similar to it, especially with manufacturers. I can be like, oh, it needs to move like this. And I can animate it to move like that. And it'll generate drawings from your 3D model, which is the drawings I've sent to like all the factories I've worked with before. So I don't need to make any technical drawings. It will do it for me.
That's really good.
Cool.
And so it's advertised as being parametric modeling.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what that means? I've heard that word, and I think I have an idea of what it means, but I probably am wrong.
I think, correct me if you think I'm wrong, but my understanding is that it's driven by different constraints and dimensions. Mm-hmm. So the way to use it best is when you start out drawing in this two-dimensional sketch is to constrain all of your shapes and measurements by putting in dimensions. And then it's great because if you change, you can build your entire model on this timeline. And if you go all the way back to the beginning and scroll back and change a dimension, it will change something from 2 inches to 3 inches. It'll change all of your work in the timeline to match up with that. And that's my understanding. I don't know if...
Yeah, I think that's kind of what my understanding, like my hope, which is what Tinkercad doesn't have, is like, if you want to change like a hole size, you can have them all tagged so that all the hole sizes across the part change.
Yeah, definitely.
That's great.
Yeah, I designed something with many, many holes in it, and I can definitely confirm that if you design it right, they'll all change, which has been a definite, when you're teaching yourself some software, there's always going to be, who knows how I would have learned it if I had sat down to learn it from a class, but there's a lot of little things like that in Fusion where, it just goes, if you set it up correctly the first time, which has come through much trial and error, it just makes your life so much easier down the line when you're like, I need to change this one hole.
Yeah, definitely. I could see that making a big difference. Okay, so that's Fusion 360. The next one is a little less high tech. It's a small water bottle.
Yeah, this is my favorite tiny water bottle, which maybe you can relate to having grown up in Colorado, but I always carry a water bottle with me everywhere. The altitude, I need to be hydrated, but this is one I usually take when I'm camping, which I love to camp. I love to canoe and go in the backcountry, and I feel like I have my best ideas when I'm out there, and I always take this with me. And it's one of those objects that I feel like has served many purposes in my life. In a camping setting, very useful for if you want to have coffee or tea or like lemonade or something you don't want to fill, empty your entire water bottle for. And if you just want a little bit of coffee or something like that, it's the perfect size. It's also, very lightweight and small. So you can, when I've been camping or backpacking in really cold places, at the end of the night when you heat up some hot water, I don't know if you guys are big outdoorsmen, but if you're really cold, heat up some hot water, put it in the small water bottle and kind of tuck it into your armpit, or you can sleep with it and it's not as bulky as a big water bottle. Yeah. So sometimes I'll have two.
Yeah.
And then on the other end of things is, I spend a lot of my time making Rube Goldberg machines, which you mentioned at the beginning of it. And and also like teaching kids to make Rube Goldberg machines. And a problem that kids have and I have with engineering things from like household objects or creating a chain reaction is like the problem of weighting things differently. You need to hold things down, or things need to trigger things with the different types of mass. So it's like the perfect size, like counterweight if you're making a pulley, because you can fill it up with different amounts of water or sand or dirt to like make it heavier. And it's a little loop you can hang on to things, so it can kind of act like a zip line or a pulley, or you can fill it up with different amounts of water and roll it down and have it knock down dominoes. I love a cylinder rather than a ball if you're ever making a Rube Goldberg machine, because cylinders obviously roll a lot straighter than a ball.
Yeah,
so
much more control.
Yeah, it serves many purposes in my life.
That's cool. And it's not expensive either.
Yes, it's not expensive. So you can get a bunch of them, make the pulleys of your dreams, and then go camping with them.
Very well.
Excellent.
Okay. So, and you're talking about a 12-ounce one. Is when you say small, that's what you meant, 12 ounce?
Yeah. It kind of, it looks like a miniature Nalgene, which I love. I've always carried a Nalgene water bottle. So it's kind of the mini version, which, if I was going to pitch it for a third reason, it's just that miniature things are very adorable and cute. I don't know what, I don't know if there's probably been a study on it of why humans are just so fascinated by small things, but this could fall into that category of just being like a shrunk down version of the Nalgene we all know and love.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. I totally can get that. So this is something that is like actually the opposite. Googly eyes usually are little, but you like really big googly eyes.
Well, I will accept all sizes of googly eyes. I don't have anything crazy in my office upstairs, but I'd be intrigued to have some gigantic googly eyes. But I do have like a pack of a couple hundred in my office at all times in case of emergency.
Of all different sizes, and do you have like a whole variety, a whole sorting tray of different sizes, scales, motions?
Well, if you step in my office, you would immediately know that a sorting tray would not be in my the way my brain works to organize things. More of a bucket where they're all mixed together, and you can find the size you need. I don't have any giant ones, but I have, definitely different sizes. I don't have the ones they make them where you can peel them off the back and like stick them on things, which if I were to revamp my googly eye collection, I would go for. But I just have the ones where you've got to apply some sort of like adhesive to the back of it, which is okay because I feel like I usually have a glue gun plugged in most times of the day. So easy to apply.
And so this you do because why do you put googly eyes on things?
I was thinking about, there's a lot of things I've collected that, I could make a whole separate list of just things that are just like fun and they're just really joyful and silly. And if you need a break to go put some googly eyes on something, just forces you to acknowledge it in a completely different way, which can be like a really fun design thinking exercise. I don't know if you ever like walk around the city, for example, and like see faces or see shapes that,
like
or in clouds. Yeah, exactly. And this is kind of a way to kind of personify the objects around your house, which I know we're coming to the end of quarantine. But when we were all stuck in our house for a long time, I was definitely seeing how many googly eyes I could put around my house and not have my roommates notice them, which they still haven't noticed most of them. But they kind of force you to take objects and take on a character of their own. And suddenly you're looking at something that had one identity and now it's got a completely different like personality to it. Is, I think, just a healthy way to approach many things. And googly eyes feel kind of like the embodiment of that practice.
Yeah. I think people like to add them to their Roomba vacuums, don't they? Makes sense to do that.
Yeah, I've got some on my fire detector on my ceiling. So if you ever look up, they're smiling at you.
That's great.
Wow.
Yeah, it reminds me of that psychologist I think it was in the 40s, who made those monkey mothers out of like just really simple materials like chicken wire and just a really rudimentary face or something, just to see like if the baby monkeys would bond to it.
Oh,
Oh
interesting.
And they
yeah.
found
I
out that
remember
like
that.
it was I think, adding those kind of the eyes were like big reflectors or something. Now I'm looking up Harry Harlow, Monkey Love Experiments. And
Monkey
so
Love
yeah, it was just,
Experiments.
and
That
it was
sounds like
just
a great band name.
yeah, it totally does. And so, yeah, the monkey mother is like just almost like this googly eyes kind of thing, but it was just a very simple face, but the monkey immediately attached to it and
Yeah.
had this like desire to like cling to it. And there's some like kind of heartbreaking pictures of a baby monkey
Oh
clinging
no.
to this like inanimate kind of doll.
No. I feel like
Oh,
it's kind of similar to what all of us do. I feel like we're always
yeah.
looking for, I don't know, whenever I go hiking, you see a tree that has kind of looks like it's dancing, or you see a rock that kind of looks like a face. It's just like human nature. I don't know if we were all like this naturally, or maybe it's just me. I'm just constantly like, we're looking for something that reflects back us or what
Yeah.
we're looking for.
I think the benefit of like a false positive of seeing a face is better than the other way, where there could be a face of like a tiger and you don't see it as being one. So we're wired in the direction of seeing faces when there might not be them,
Yeah, just in
because it's a
case.
survival advantage. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, cool. So googly eyes on everything. I'm on board with that.
Yeah. Great.
So tell us about your Momentix Motion Kit. What is it, and what inspired you to do it, and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so the Motion Kit is kind of me and my partner, Anna Gilbertson, started this toy company together in college. And this is our most recent iteration, our best iteration for sure, as iterations go, of it. It's a toy kit made of wood and really simple, kind of funky, wacky pieces that connects with things you already own. So things from your recycling bin, or maybe old toys, or things you find outside. It's meant to act as like the levers and pulleys and ramps to create a Rube Goldberg machine. And it's meant to be a building kit in the sense that you're creating a Rube Goldberg machine, but it is meant also to be really simple to put together. So every piece is like 2 pieces max click together. So you don't need to be a master Lego builder to play with it. It gives you kind of the freedom to focus on, how am I going to use the things around me? I don't need to get caught up in the nuances of it all, which is pretty directly tied to like my experience as a kid. I think my first exposure to a Rube Goldberg machine in 5th grade, we had to like move Stuart Little's present across the classroom or something. And I remember thinking, I've got so many great ideas, but my family was not. I refer to my dad as not a power tool dad. I love him, but he was not. We didn't have like tools in my house. There was no like scrap lumber in the backyard. So mine was mostly made of, duct tape, paper, cardboard. So it didn't function as well as I think it should have, and maybe I just have a chip on my shoulder ever since. But that was kind of the design has been a direct response to that in a lot of ways. And as we've kind of built it, it's become a response to other things we care about, like introducing physics and engineering concepts in a really like colorful and gender flexible way, and just creating tools that are really approachable to people who maybe don't see themselves as like engineering type people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's such a need for that. It's really very inspirational. And a chain reaction is like who doesn't love one of those? That it's a really fantastic way to engage people who may not think of themselves as technical or even scientific, but it
Yeah.
is. It is
Yeah, exactly.
problem solving.
And it's really like scalable is one of my favorite things about it, where, if you playing with a kid or anybody and you just put a marble down a ramp and it lands in a cup, like that is a chain reaction. And it's really satisfying. And you get this sense of like accomplishment and success from it. And you like see motion happening. And then from there, you can add a step and then add a step and then add a step. And you can make it as complex as you want, but it's less black and white in terms of success or failure. Follow the instructions, you did it wrong. It can kind of reflect whoever's building with it.
Well, that's really great. And so this is called Momentix.
Yeah, it's Momentix is the name of our company, and the kit we're coming out with is called the Motion Kit.
And is it going to be a Kickstarter?
Yeah, I think we're going to do it in a Kickstarter format in the coming month.
Cool.
Yeah.
And the look of it is really cool. I love the design aesthetic. It reminds me of this, like I had this wooden box of painted wooden pieces that were kind of like pastel colored. I can't remember, it was called like Zebo or something. And it has that same kind of look. There was that certain kind of California architecture aesthetic of the 1980s.
Yeah,
were you tapping into that at all?
Well, if you go look at our old kit, which we just contributed to the laser cutter and Fusion 360, and a lot of me learning how to use these tools was, okay, we have this idea, but we don't know how to kind of make it. We're not confident enough to go put in a factory order for like 3,000 pieces, but we want to test it still. So we ran a Kickstarter, like a little mini Kickstarter last year, and made 150 kits between me and Anna. Like that was our quarantine activity. We just like CNC'd and sanded toys for like 3 weeks straight. And the result from us making them ourselves, they were really 2-dimensional. So the concept was really there. Like they functioned really well, but they just were kind of ugly, or maybe not ugly. They were more, stereotypical of something you'd see as very sterile and like straight and, not very flexible. So our design challenge in this new kit is like, how do you make something that is really beautiful also? Because people love beautiful things. Even if they don't want to acknowledge it, I think everybody as a human loves a beautiful object. And I think drawing from architecture is a great place to find that, because people are just so naturally drawn to, beautiful buildings around them, or like just beautiful shapes, whether they're, a funky candle you're going to go put on your dining room table, or, a house you're going to build.
Yeah. Oh, you know what it reminds me of is Memphis Group design.
Yeah.
Did you tap into that at all?
If not in like a super intentional way, I would say, Pinterest would be, if I was going to choose a fifth tool, I would choose Pinterest because it's just such a great way to like visually organize everything. And I would not be surprised if I looked back and there was like some Memphis Group designs on there. But
yeah,
tell me how you use a Pinterest. Is it more than a scrapbook, or do you have ways in which you kind of maybe more proactively search for things, or how do you use Pinterest?
Yeah, so Pinterest is, I feel like people think of Pinterest as like, a tool for like, moms who like need to like, I don't know, like that's how I always perceived it, but I've just been consistently using it for so long. I just think of it as like I use it as like a vision board, as a way to like visually collect my thoughts rather than having to like write them down. So you can look in Pinterest collection of anything they already have in there, but you can also just save anything onto Pinterest. So I have like a Pinterest plugin on my Google Chrome browser. So if I ever see an image, or if I want to upload my own image, I can pin it with that plugin and add it to like a folder. So we have all sorts of, for packaging design inspiration, and like just a whole folder just for like colors and like aesthetics and like things that are a little more abstract that I couldn't capture otherwise is like visually captured on Pinterest, which is incredibly useful, especially if you're very visually oriented like I am.
Yeah, I use it all the time, and I'm just amazed other people aren't using it all the time either.
Yeah, right?
It's still free too, which is, at least I'm not paying for it. I don't know if other people are, but yeah, it's pretty deep, and it's a pretty good search engine as well for finding other stuff.
Do you use it in a similar way?
Yes, I use it for like image research. Like if I wanted, like, I was building a erector set bridge. I wanted to see what do bridges look like, or what do erector set bridges look like. And you can use Google, but Google is Google can find them, but can't catalog and organize them and archive them the way Pinterest can.
One of the most useful ways, thinking of like in the design aspect of how we use Pinterest, is we've always been attached to like making our pieces out of wood, because it just fits with the ethos of what we're doing, of like having a really tactile kit. But we also wanted it to be like, a building kit that has modularity to it. So it was a quest to figure out pretty much every single way you could imagine to connect two pieces of wood together. That was a whole Pinterest board of just like, toys, but also like architectural and furniture design and like life hack stuff all went there, of like, okay, two pieces of wood, how can you join them?
Yeah, that's a great use of it. That's fantastic. On the more aesthetic side, if you haven't seen Same.Energy,
you should definitely heard of that.
You should look at that. That's a image search engine that will search by the feeling of the image that you can drag an image in. You can take a target image, and it will replicate not the subject but the feeling, the atmosphere.
It's the kind of really, the vibe of it.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, and it'll uncover all kinds of things you would not get to any other way.
I wonder, I would love to talk to whoever designed this algorithm and like what kind of it's based around to get you there.
Yeah, right. I have no idea. It's very clever.
Yeah, wow. I will play around with that for sure.
We wish you best of success in your launch of Momentix, and it does have you do have a very distinctive vibe to your stuff, so that's really great.
Yeah, I hope people go and look up a photo. I feel like or a video, even if it's just of a Rube Goldberg machine. I feel like if you're not familiar with what a Rube Goldberg machine is, it'll make sense if you Google one thing in YouTube of it.
Yes.
Yeah. What time in June that you're releasing the Kickstarter, start doing the Kickstarter?
We're still playing around with the exact day in June. So if people want to sign up on our website, I will make sure to let them know, because it's still in the works, the exact day.
Okay, sounds good.
Well, thank you so much for having me on here.
Yeah.
This was
Thanks
lovely.
so much, Alana. Great talking to you.
Yeah.
It's been a delight. And it really looks cool stuff. And thanks for the tools that you shared, from the Googlies to the laser cutters. Really great stuff. So thank you.
Yeah.
Good luck with your Kickstarter, Alana.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Hey everybody, it's your host Mark, and I wanted to thank you for listening to the Cool Tools Show, and I also wanted to let you know that we've got a lot more going on at Cool Tools than just this podcast. We also have the Cool Tools website, which has a new tool review every day, and you can get there by going to cool-tools.org. We also have 4 different newsletters that you can subscribe to, and you can subscribe to those from the Cool Tools page. We have this podcast that you're listening to right now. We also have a YouTube channel where we review tools. Check that YouTube channel out by going to youtube.com/cooltools. And one of the things I'd like to ask you is, if you're really enjoying everything that we are producing, go to our Patreon page and support us there. You can sign up and give us as little as $1 a month, and that would mean a lot to us. the money that we get from Patreon goes towards a lot of things. We transcribe our podcast interviews so that you can read them online. We pay for editing of our podcasts and for our videos. We pay our contributors. We have video production costs. We have equipment costs. We have hosting costs. And the money you give us through Patreon also goes to support Cool Tools Lab. Anything you give is a huge help. And one of the things that we do is if you are a contributor to Patreon, we'll give you a shout out on air. And so I have a few people here to thank this week. Mark Lyanaj, Micah Gates, Monty Zukowski, Patrick James McNally, Robert Cohen, Scott, Spence Lloyd, Steve Avery, Steve Golden, Steve Levine, Tom Hess, William Phillips, Aaron Nipper, Durab Patel, Glenn Mercer, Jay Walker, Jeff Bonner, Ryan Jarrell, Pat Daly, Patrick Kennedy, Troy Wallet, Mike Camerate, Nicole Harkin, Tim Youssef, Scott Reed. Thanks all of you for supporting Cool Tools. And if you would like to have a shout out, go over to the Patreon page and sign up. And thanks for listening to the Cool Tools podcast. We'll see you next week.